There'll be like a small, like 2 second delay, so no one can get slapped tonight. But if I send you the link, could you email it out? Okay. I didn't think it was real.
I still think it's staged. There's too much economics behind it. But it was an excellent PR stuff. Make it over to the TV place too, or TV station.
Awesome. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started here. So to introduce myself, I'm Jones III. I'm the Student Government Association President here at the University of Arkansas. First, I want to thank everyone for coming out today. Here's the candidates and supporting. I also want to thank our candidates for coming as well. This has been a lot. One pillar of my administration that I truly value is political participation. And so making sure that our students are well educated and they're aware of what's going on in their state locally matters. And so thank you all for coming and participating in this forum today. And so our moderator today will be Ms. Regina Rowe. She'll come up and explain to you all the rules and the format of today's forum. And we're going to go ahead and hand that over to Ms. Rowe.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Regina Rowe. I'm a senior here at the university, majoring in political science with a minor in military science, and I will be your moderator for this evening. On the stage, we have three lovely candidates, all vying for the position of governor. And from left to right, we have Judge Joseph Hood, Mr. Chris Beckett, and Senator Jason Ray. And to explain the rules of the forum, there will be 4 rounds of questions followed by the audience. Following the audience question, each candidate will get 2 minutes to introduce themselves. During the question and answer period, each candidate will receive 1.5 minutes to answer the question. And if a candidate is explicitly named, they will have 30 seconds to respond. After the question and answer period, each candidate will get 2 minutes to give closing remarks. So at this time, we're going to have our candidates introduce themselves, starting with Judge Joseph Hood.
Thank you, Ms. Virginia.
Yes, sir.
And President Jones, thank you guys for having me. I'm Joseph Floyd. I'm a county judge in Marshall County, Arkansas, home of the University of Arkansas. Here in the but that's one of our types. And I'm a county judge there, first black county judge, Arkansas Station. And I'm going to continue on behind me, qualified private sector, public sector, experience, and bring it back to the state of Arkansas. I used to be the former executive of the state, former executive of Home Depot, and now I'm running as county judge. We do a lot of work bringing folks together, bringing businesses together to change the dynamic, but it's changed up in Northwest Arkansas, transform over the past 20 years. I have a vision for Arkansas that we can be an exemplary state, where we have a leadership opportunity, and then the results. That's Arkansas, and I look forward to you guys doing exactly.
Thanks, Regina. Thank you very much for having us, Leon. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Good luck to your dad in his race. Ladies and gentlemen, I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. Moved here to Arkansas at Fayetteville when I made my first decision to choose to play football back in the 1980s. And I have been in and out of Arkansas through the years, but for the third time, back in 2013, I came back to Arkansas. I'm here to say this is where my heart is. This is where my mom grew up over in Greenwood, Arkansas. My mom and dad met at the University of Arkansas. But I think it's interesting. I'm flanked by 2 politicians on the stage. I'm not a politician. I've never run for office. All I've ever done is just get my head down, grinding, trying to grow a business, build a business. I'm a financial advisor. I actually get to work with an incredible niche group of clients. They're at all college and pro football centers. It's a lot of fun to work with those guys because they're motivated, they're deciding what they do every day. When they know they got to be on their toes, they got to be winners. They got to be the best they can be. They need to do that every day of their life. And that's what's so fun being working with that group of people that I can work with my practice. But I have been growing that business over the years since I've been in Arkansas since 2013. And I look around at how Republicans have done in the state, and I have to say I've been very disappointed. And what I've seen is essentially Republicans governing like Democrats. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a Republican. And I expect Republicans who I vote for to do Republican things, not to maintain and continue what the Democrats did before. So that's why I'm running, because I'm very disappointed. Is that any time's up?
Yes, you're right.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Senator Grayson Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Thanks, UAPB, for hosting this opportunity to talk with you. My name is Jason Labor. I'm a state senator, actually originally from Randolph County, Arkansas, which is over near Pocahontas. How many of you even know where that's at? A little town called Maynard. So I grew up in small town Arkansas, a very economically depressed part of Arkansas. One of the reasons that I'm glad to come here tonight is the main reason for me is wrong with students. Because I don't know about you, but I know what it is to grow up with a family that's living paycheck to paycheck and know what that means. So I'm not hobnobbing around the jet set. I'm actually right out here with people a little bit about what it takes to get it. And I can tell you that education unlocked the door for everything that I have and who I am. I was 18 years old. I got married to Conway, Arkansas, started at UCA. I worked at UPS pitching boxes at 2:30 every single morning just to be able to work and get through college. So I worked my way through my life and I were able to both graduate at UCA. And education unlocked the door for me and my community. And ultimately in 2010, I decided to give back. A lot of people say they're not politicians. Well, I say that myself too. I'm a citizen legislator. I was raising my family, taking care of my business. I built my business as well. And I took time and said, I'll turn to what's going on in this country. I want to see if there be a better place to live, work, and raise our family. And so I decided to run for office. I've been elected 4 times to the Arkansas Senate. There's 2 jobs of the lieutenant governor, that is to preside over the Senate. I'm actually the only candidate that's running that has been there while Republicans have had the majority governing in the Arkansas legislature. So I've been there. I've worked with the people. I know how to preside over the Senate. So that's one job. The other job of lieutenant governor is to actually be ready to serve day one if you're called on to serve in the vacancy. Having been there while we've been governing, I've been on the tax revenue committee, etc. I can finish that later. I believe that I'm well qualified to be a lieutenant governor, and I'd be honored to do so. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that lovely introduction. We're going to go ahead and start with our question and answer. Starting with Judge Ludick. We have many out-of-state students. How do you feel like voter ID laws affect students, and how will you ensure voter ID laws are equitable for students?
I worked as Deputy Secretary of State, and one of the things we did was encourage and bring about introduction to the legislature that we want to go ID, ensure that we have a good, consistent, fair election process. I think students coming from another state, they can either vote in their home state or they get a chance to vote here. But we got to make sure we are doing the due diligence to ensure that we have the right people at the ballot box. We only count one vote. I really do push and support voter ID, and again, always have it. That is not an issue in fact in the state of Arkansas. When it became an issue that you could not have, there's a population can't afford it, he said we'll make it free. We want to get that equipment, put that equipment in every county, so you didn't have to come to so the same thing we have to do.
You know, I'm not going to stray too far from Judge Wood's comments. I'm unapologetic about voter ID. I think it's in this day and age, we have the ability, like they did maybe in the 1800s or earlier, to not have photographs and have voter ID. I think when you have that ability to do that, I think that makes a lot of sense. And so I'm unapologetic about that. It's we need voter ID. Hey, we do it when we fly. We do it when we go to the liquor store. We do it when we go to the casino. You know, you've got to show ID in lots of different occasions in our life. So should be a problem with that when it comes to free and making sure integrity of elections.
It's a great question. I actually served as chair of the State Agencies Committee during this last year. And
part of that duty is that we had several election integrity laws passed. And obviously some of those have been formed litigation as it relates to voter ID. Absolutely. What we respect, we honor. And I respect that vote. I don't want somebody going and taking advantage of anyone. And I respect that. I will interject to tell you that I have seen some of the voting process in other countries firsthand. I led 8 teams to Ghana, West Africa, doing humanitarian service projects, building water wells, doing malaria distributions. And when I was there, I found out that they actually thumbprint their voting. This is a nation that has gone through coup d'etats, but they now have democratically elected representatives. And they take it so seriously, they actually thumbprint. And actually now I think they may have even gone to a full hand scan in that country because they didn't want people taking advantage of going and voting in different polls. And so why can we not do that here in the United States? We are capable of showing an ID, proving our identity. So I'm bound.
Thank you. This next question, we're going to start with Mr. Becky. Can you explain to us the role of lieutenant governor?
Well, Jason has already touched on that. There's 2 responsibilities. Lieutenant Governor preside over the Senate breaking ties if there are any ties, and be ready to step in as governor if there is a vacancy due to felony, disability, or death. I see my role as Lieutenant Governor being able to try to influence legislation in the Senate, but I also see a bigger, broader role for myself as Lieutenant Governor, and that is to be the chief accountability officer for the state of Arkansas. And any Democrats up there, sorry, but since all the state government at this point in time is run by Republicans, it's essentially being the chief accountability officer of the Republican Party. To hold people accountable to governing like Republicans, to doing Republican things and putting in place what I believe are winning Republican policies. And if they aren't doing that, which they haven't been doing for the last 10 years, then, first you privately try to handle it. And if they're still not going to do Republican things, then you call them out publicly. And you hate to do that, but you call them out publicly. And if it comes to it, you find primary opponents for them and you help the primary opponent raise money, primary, and you defeat them and vote them out of office. So that we get real Republicans in office who finally do Republican things. Yes, well, I've already stated what the role of Lieutenant Governor is. And I will say one thing that is important to understand about the role of Lieutenant Governor is that unfortunately, Lieutenant Governor is not involved in the debate, the issues that have to serve as the presiding officer, which is really to be the chair of the body during its proceedings. And so in that, you have to be very fair with everybody, regardless of who it is. One of the things in the Arkansas Senate, you are one of 35 senators, each of you have the same rights, the same privileges, no matter what your party, no matter what your background, there's no differentiation. That senator has the right to get up, to speak, and to give their opinion. And sometimes they impact the debates, even though they may be from an area which may not have a political power, so to speak, is another area. They have the right to do that. When I've been with the Lieutenant Governor's office, as I said, I have been there, and I am proud of any of the accomplishments that we've made. Done everything I would like to see done in the Republican Party? Absolutely not. There's a lot of things I would love to see law enforcement officers given a tax credit so that they're not 49th in the nation here in our state. So we back them, we're doing things we can, but definitely as Lieutenant Governor, we need to understand the place that we serve in and also try to influence the best we can and use the little bit. I think I said that I'm uniquely qualified to be the next Lieutenant Governor because I already have more executive experience. And right now, as county judge, the closest county in the state of Arkansas to be the Lieutenant Governor, being a county judge. In particular, the county judge of a very large county like Washington County. I preside over a form court very similar from the legislation of the county, just like the legislators do down in Little Rock. I preside over them. I'm right now ready to step into that space of governor, just like a county judge now,
every day don't worry about county. Every day I'm dealing with jails, population, every day I'm dealing with infrastructure. Springdale, some container meeting before they get the same Silver Johnson, the city of Johnson. I declare an emergency. Now, I reach out to the state to let them know we on alert so we can reach millions of dollars damages. Then the state comes in and get the federal government. But that's the job that I do, the infrastructure, economic development. Property assessment. I do this work every single day. Yesterday, I did it today, I'll be doing it tomorrow. That's something that everybody else is trying. I'm doing the work of Lieutenant Governor right now. And that's the same work with your county judge. So there's my response.
All right, this next one will start with Senator Rayford. You are speaking to college students. What would be your compelling reason that a college student should go free?
That's a good question. And as I actually already alluded to that a little bit when I got started. I came from rural Arkansas. I didn't have a silver spoon when I got started. Actually, it was the first college student in my family. I guess my grandfather didn't get to go to college. My father didn't get to go to college, but I did. So I worked hard. And I was married too. I wouldn't suggest necessarily right now to get married. We've been married for 32 years. And we did that working our way through college. And one thing I will tell you is that I've been where you've been. Matter of fact, I'm making worse off than some. But I know that it's tough. What I've been able to do is I've been able to create jobs. And not only did I work for Fortune 500 companies, but when I actually decided to run for office, I had started my career at Farmers Insurance Group. I worked at Edward Jones Investments. I then was recruited to Merrill Lynch as part of a high net worth team. And I couldn't run for office and stay there, so I resigned from Merrill Lynch. And I took the risk to walk away, shirt on my back, shoes on my feet, leaving a team that was managing a total of $165 million a year to start over because I believe in this state and our opportunities, and I wanted it to be better. I created my own business, which is now Providence Financial Group. I did sell my money management book of business a few years ago, but I still have my business and do consulting work through that as well. My point is that I know what it is to be a young student in rural Arkansas and have to work hard and see what education can bring for you. And I believe that we need people from different backgrounds to be involved in public service because we really just don't want lawyers and physicians being the ones that make all the rules, make all the laws. We need to hear from teachers. We need to hear from farmers. We need to hear from preachers. We need to hear from a multitude of people. And so what I would tell you is that I've been where you have been. I've worked hard. And I know what it is to be in your position. And I hope inspired.
Yeah, I was you. In fact, the last week there was a young man who was about 21 stood up and said, I'm struggling on college campus because I'm a black conservative. And I'm just struggling. I had to go reach out to him because I was that kid many years ago. I am you. And I said to these, when I was undergrad, I was at the university with college as Christian leadership. But I'm actually a lawyer because then you guys but Helena, we were talking about Helena West Helena, and we really spent time working with UAPB to work and form a relation with those kids coming out of Helena, coming out of those high schools, to come to a place where they can be fostered, develop, and groom and grow. Critical rational thinkers, because as an employer of Big County, I need you guys coming out of those counties who can think, whether you're Republican or Democrat, can you come and bring solutions and solve problems for what we're facing across our state? That's why I need your support. That's why I need your vote. I'm looking and saying that across this world, everybody still looks at this country as a place of hope. They're coming to this country because they believe they can do a path in this country that they can't in those countries. And that's each and every one of you. If you look at my mantra as I'm running around the state, it says fighting for what's possible. And I believe I'm fighting for what's possible across the state, whether you're in Helena, Miller County, or there in Washington County. It's all possible for you, whether you're in the hood like I was. I That's my response, but I appreciate y'all again. I look at this.
So the question is, why are U.S. college students voting? It's because you have a self-acting test to give safety, liberty, and prosperity in the state. We've been at the back of the pack for far too long in this state. But the way you unleash those three things, liberty, safety, and prosperity, is first one. It's not because there is a right correlation between how much liberty you have and how many if it's small and limited, your circle of liberty. State government is bloated and overgrown. Does all kinds of stuff, that's too much. Your circle of liberty shrunk. So I want you to have lots and lots in spades liberty. You have that kind of problem with government. You do things like income tax, like Texas, Florida, Tennessee, 2 or 3 years. When you always say income tax, you get to bring home everything. See how successful they are. That's what in front of that. And safety. We've got a crime issue here in my block. We've got a crime issue going. I'm a former deputy prosecutor in 1990, tried for 33 trials. I've seen victims because their loved one was being talked about. I witnessed. It's horrible. I've seen the dead bodies at the murders. It's horrible. The government's #1 role is to provide safety, protection, and life. So you do those 3 things, you have free prosperity. And that's what I want to give you. That's all.
There's 4 things I really want to have focus on. I work with all 75 counties every day. And I would hope that whoever comes together, that they would be focused on the same part, economic development and growth. We have a ready workforce. They have economic development growth, not have good and ready workforce, and that's the education. Our children, that's what I talk about. So those will be the 4 things I hope that whoever education, our children, and then our veterans.
We all know elections have consequences. And in this state, for the last 10 years, Republicans have been winning those elections. And now we have, as Republicans, all the constitutional offices in the state. We have supermajorities in the legislature. Our party has a platform. In that platform of what we believe as a party are winning policies and programs. And so I pray that whoever the next governor is will want to put in place in Arkansas those policies and programs. I believe they're winning because they are things that unleash liberty, safety, and prosperity. And if the governor is doing those things, things like small limited government, abolish the state income tax, crack down on crime, implement statewide school choice, rein in, sorry, Vice Chancellor, I believe in many ways our public higher education system in the state is out of control. But we have to rein in our public higher education system. We have a problem with illegal immigrants being in this state. We have a lot of illegal aliens in this state that take Arkansas lives, jobs, depressed wages, clog our hospitals, prisons, and our schools. There's all kinds of things we have to do. And if we implement those policies, then we will unleash liberty, safety, and prosperity.
Good question on how we would support the governor. Obviously, lieutenant governor is a separately elected constitutional office. So I think that anyone elected to that particular position needs to focus on that position. But obviously, you're there to support. If that person elected is one of our Republican candidates, which I hope it will be, then I want to make sure that we support that candidate to do the very best job that he or she can do to help keep Arkansas moving forward. And I would like to say, in addition to that, when you think about who is best prepared to be able to support that governor in that position, and I have great respect for people's backgrounds and what they do, but who would be better off as your lieutenant governor than somebody that is sat there on that Tax and Revenue Committee that has helped pass the largest round of tax cuts in our state's history during our tenure. I've sat on budget. I work with higher education. I work with our counterparts across the state, county judges, sheriffs, all of them, to help take care of it. Matter of fact, when we talk about managing things and managing budgets, we have over $6 billion a year that we have to handle in our state budget. I managed a loan in my business, millions of dollars for my clients. And they came to me because they wanted to, not because they had to. We were able to help solve their problems and do good things for them. Judge Woods mentioned the county, the crises in some of our counties. I'm going to tell you something. Law and order, it's so important. You need to make sure that your jails are built and hold criminals. We got places across our state, students, where we've got repeat offenders that have been turned out that should have been in jail because the local officials wouldn't do what they needed to make sure that there was a jail to hold that person and hold them accountable. And you know what? One of those people that was a repeat offender, they got out and ran over a police officer in Pea Ridge, Arkansas. And that's wrong. That's something we've got to do. So I'm going to do my best to support the governor, but because of the experience I've attained over my tenure here, I'm going to make sure that she knows who she's dealing with and that we do our best to run this state and hopefully make it better for all of us.
Thank you. We're now going to open the floor for any questions. If you have a question, just raise your hand and I'll call on you.
Don't be bashful.
First of all, thank you all for coming to the University of Arkansas. University, which is uniquely positioned for claiming the rights for building middle class in Arkansas, most certainly for opening opportunities for African Americans. I guess I have just a general question. I'm originally from Pelham, Arkansas, but I've been gone for over 30 plus years, came back with Louisville. I'm an unabashed Democrat, but as you said, the person who wins the seat will most likely be a Republican. But I'm curious, you said several times during your Republican things. I'm curious, what does that actually mean? I'm not sure I understand what doing Republican things means. So I'd like you to clarify.
Yeah, sure. First one on the top of my list, the small limited government. Democrats ran state government for 140 years. Okay, we had some Republican governors, but if you control the legislature, which Democrats did for 140 years, you make the laws. Simple majority overrules any veto of the governor. So despite having some Republican governors, it's the legislature that controls the state, and the Democrats did for 140 years. They created over that period of time a bloated and overgrown state government. Okay, horribly bloated and overgrown. And when Republicans took over, I would like to think, being the party of small and limited government, did we cut any of those policies, any of that waste? No. In fact, since Republicans took control of the state legislature 10 years ago, they've increased spending by another 28% on top of where it was when they took over. So Republican things, small and limited government, that's a Republican thing. Abolishing the state income tax. I believe work is virtuous. You should never tax work. If we're If we need taxes for the essential, basic, necessary things government needs to be doing, we can have that debate all day long. Then I think the tax needs to be collected at the sales and the property tax level. Work is virtuous, and we need to encourage it by not taxing. School choice is one of my big issues. If you want to make education fair for everybody, not just the rich, and you don't want to keep people bottled up in failed schools and school districts, school choice is the secret there. Funding on August 1st, everybody's education savings account would say $10,000, and then that parent is free to go out and educate their child in whatever education setting they want to. That's revolutionary. And that's the Republican view. It's in our platform, school choice. So those are some of the things that I'm talking about. Crime, again, we've got to crack down on crime. I know my time's up. There's a number of other things. You can go to my website, beckettforarkansas.com, and see those things I'm talking about. But I appreciate the question.
Any more questions from the floor? The young gentleman in the hoodie.
What legislature do you think the governor needs to implement right now?
What legislation does the governor need to implement?
Yeah, what laws you think the governor should pass since y'all gonna be lieutenant governors?
Whatever's in line.
I think, thanks for the question. I think one of the questions just recently asked me, being one of the most pressing issues facing our state. And I would tell you it is being competitive. I think economic growth and education, this is 4 things I've talked about. This is 4 things I'm doing now, economic development in my county. I'm doing with education in my county, working with our veterans. Nobody else. Come into this because I really get to things that they don't have the same so I think that's one of the things I really there's a whole lot that we definitely they say it's been it's the largest tax in our state system. Number 2, we actually have reduced state employees in our state. I have seen some people say this is the fact that when you're going to go, when you're cutting taxes, guess what? You're going to have more revenue on a lower tax rate. That's been happening. I agree. The governors have stated, governors candidates, they will have to see 1 to 0% income tax. I've been there on those policies. I've been there on the tax revenue committee. Local folks object to those things. And it's Texas. One of the main reasons I understand public education in our state is that people will say, keep raising our property taxes, not millions. I don't think that gets them school. But what about those folks that don't own any property? They're not paying anything. So what's going to happen? It's just what we want tax. But we do need to make a decision and begin to make the long term
planning that is necessary to get us to that 0%. And I hope that we can do it because we'll all be better off for it. Thank you.
So you asked just what's the most pressing piece of legislation? Again, I said earlier, what's the number one responsibility of government? To me, it's safety. It's keeping lives, our lives, and property safe, right? That's the number one purpose of role of government. Now, we can multitask and hopefully do other things at the same time. But if at some point in a particular area, like where I live in Little Rock, if crime's out of control, hey, it's an all hands on deck. It's every man and woman on deck to stop that problem. And in the near term, I think there's a number of things that state government should have been doing in the last 8 years to stop the crime problem in this state. And that is things like, I mean, we're still using the same sentencing laws when I was a prosecutor back in the 1990s. They're soft on crime. They're lenient, okay? I mean, the federal government has very lenient or very strong sentencing terms. I mean, when you get a sentence, you're going to do 90% of your sentence. In Arkansas, you're typically going to get out after about 25%, 30% of your sentence. Again, depending on the crime, depending on if you have prior convictions. So we need to, be focused on a stronger criminal justice system. We also need to be, in Little Rock, we're down 80 police officers, 80 sworn law enforcement officers. You know how you get that ramped up real quick? You abolish the state income tax for every sworn law enforcement officer in the state. They work a lot of overtime, so that's a lot of income that they get to keep in their pockets. But the legislature hadn't done that. And unfortunately, those are the kinds of things we need to be doing right now. We have a law in this state where if a school system is failing academically or financially, the state can come in and take it over and get the ship righted. We need the same kind of law for law enforcement agencies that aren't getting it done in the criminal and the law enforcement area. And again, that should be a law that we should have passed years ago. But unfortunately, we didn't have a vision.
The young gentleman, you still have a question?
So I wanted to know, out of all the things on the list in this country, what would you want to change? How would you do it? That's so broad.
Sorry.
I'll take it. So here in Arkansas, one of my big deals is abolish the state income tax. What I would love to see the federal government do is abolish the federal income tax and go to a national sales tax. Now, Democrats have talked about adding a national sales tax on top of the income tax. No, I would abolish the state income tax and the federal income tax because, again, to me, the most virtuous thing a human being can do with great dignity is work. I mean, work, someone told me 874 times the word work is mentioned in the Bible. Pretty good reason. The good Lord wants us to work, okay? Evangelize, all kinds of other ideas of work in the Bible, but it's important in our lives, in our dignity, to work. And when you work, that's your private property. And you ought to be able to bring every bit of it home. And then at the point of sales tax, or when you buy property, or buy anything at the consumption end, it's you that determines how much tax you pay. I buy a brand new car, I pay more tax. I buy a used car, I pay less tax. I buy a $300,000 house versus a $600,000 house, I have less property taxes versus more property taxes. That's your choice. You make that decision. My only choice to avoid the income tax is not go to work. That's not an option. Okay, you got to feed your family. You got to make your way in life through work and earning that income from work. So that's why I'm such a big proponent of that. But I appreciate you asking the question. Let me start now. Thank you very much.
It's a great question, and I'm glad you asked the question as well, because it gives me an opportunity to tell you what my heart is. When we all stand before the Lord someday, He's not going to ask us what our tax policy is. He's not. He's going to ask that you do the right thing. Did you stand up and oppose injustice? Did you stand up for life? I'm an ordained minister in addition to everything else. Deuteronomy, it says, those who choose life will be blessed. Those who choose death will be cursed. In this nation, we've lost 63 million little innocent babies to abortion. Until we deal with this sin and this injustice in our country, it's going to be tough for us to ever get along and do anything. I read the other day, I have a program every day called Save the Nation with Jason Ricker. It's on 101.1 FM. And I read the entire speech of Abraham Lincoln, who was a fantastic man, the first Republican in the history of our country. And his speech, A House Divided, was on slavery. And he talked about one state that said we're going to be a free state, and another state that said we're going to be a slave state. And he said, we can't do this. We can't be a house divided. And we had to end, he helped end the crime against humanity that was slavery. And if I could end one thing right now today, and I have a record to prove it, to show for it, it would be to abolish abortion and to teach our families, our young people, to honor life. And if we do that, we'd be blessed. It's a great question.
It was a broad question, but man, it's deep. I like that. And I think both of them gave a great response, and I stand with both of them in their response. My one piece, if I could, it would be to have less engagement of the federal interfering with what we can do here in the state and what you guys do at the local level. I believe the best government is the closest government to the people that it's impacting, whether it be the city and the city council and those families who live in that city, or the county, or the state. But when you have a overreach, and we have that, where the federal government is trying to dictate, you don't know my community like I know my community, like you know your community. I spent some time here back when, Mayor Reedus was here, and then we were talking about Mayor Hollingsworth was here. Come to Pine Bluff, trying to effect a change. Yeah, coffee with the chief, and I think they're still doing that. Chief of police, chief of the school systems, trying to figure out what can we do, and not looking for the federal government to do it, but for us as neighbors to do it, for you as students to get involved. Chris Robinson was working on the education and student recruitment side, trying to engage and bring more people here to Pine Bluff, UAPB, and working with me as the deputy secretary, because we had the international part of that, working with bringing international students here. So I've been very engaged with trying to figure out how do we impact change that we want to see closest to the people, as opposed to having a federal government trying to orchestrate and tell us how to do it, what to do, when to do it. Bring it back to us, bring it back to you, so you can make that call and make that change. You know what's going on. Anyway, that would be the piece I would want to see change.
You can go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to thank all three of you guys for coming out. I am a conservative Republican. I have children that's in college, 1 year, and I've raised all of them to be conservative. And my sons, I define what it is to be a man, and my daughter, I define what it is for her to be a woman. That said, how do each of you define a woman?
Starting with Senator.
Genesis 1:26-28, God created males and females, created in. I speak about it all the time. And the facts are on that issue that it's amazing that we believe we're in a progressive society and we can't even tell the difference. We've done a great disservice, so we really have. First of all, there are things that are settled. Science is settled. Female has female genitalia, male has male genitalia, and that's the way it is. Professor McHugh was charmed at Johns Hopkins University Psychology Department. I said this on the floor of the Senate, and he said that it's scientifically impossible to change a male into a female or a female into male. All that you will end up having, sir, is a feminized male or a masculinized female. In our society, I think in the years ahead, when we get back to our census, and finally recapture, if there are certain things that are settled that we don't need to be messing with, that is this issue. I think they'll look back and think what was going on, that these people were so confused that they couldn't tell the difference between them. See, when we honor God, we honor family, His plan for life, everything works out. But right now, we've got a group of people in our country that are showing confusion and discord in so many different places, and it's unnecessary, and I think it's a drag on society, no pun intended.
What a question. I mean, and it is disappointing that you would have Supreme Court justice candidates say that they don't know what a woman is because they're not biologists. And it just struck me because a week before, the president said that, you know, I'm gonna have the first Black woman as a Supreme Court justice. And I'm thinking, well, does she know that a Black woman that she is, that she says she's gonna be, but yet she can't define that. It boggles my mind, but I think Senator Ray just said it, the biology and the science is there. I got 3 daughters, my wife is here, I'm surrounded, my sister, a woman. In my mind, talk about Proverbs 31. Who can? And so when we talk about the nurturing, the listening, the caring, that's what I think of when I start thinking about my wife, I think about my daughters. The man, I read a book years ago when I was a young man, before I got married, a man is still undealt. Speaking of man's role as protector, guide, leader, but yet can he be still and delicate? Meaning he can respect a woman, that he can love and hug and kiss and tell the story that he loves her. That's the difference. And that's what we're missing. And you create suicidal rates. You got confusion that goes on. And so when I'm a Christian, I talk about vertical line, there's God and there's man. And then there's woman. Guess what? He said, you're a soulmate. She's your neck. Son, guess what? You can't do a whole lot without her. Try. Strike you first, because I put you in that line. But she's your neck. You guys are supposed to be partners. So anyway, that's my definition. Appreciate it.
Well, I can't do any better than Jason's definitions for Genesis. I think the other thing that disturbed me about that Senate hearing, where she was asked some questions, she was asked about natural law and natural rights. Those come from God. And she completely punted on that issue, on that question. And I just shook my head in disgust. I mean, that's where we in an education system have to get back to our roots and understand what our founders and our framers believe. And that is that everything we have comes from God. Comes from God, not government, from God. And where that went wrong was, I believe it was the Everson decision, the 1962 Supreme Court case, where they took prayer out of the classroom. And ever since then, they've been on a steady march to remove prayer and faith out of the public square. And that's, we've had too many people voting to allow that. I mean, the slippery slope, what was it? A few years back, it was, hey, we just want to get married to gay men, to gay women. We just want to get married. Hey, now, if you don't accept the way our lifestyle is, we're going to cancel you. That's where it's moved to. And here now we have all the trans stuff. Guess what's coming? Pedophilia. Hey, it's okay for a 40-year-old man to have sex with a 13-year-old boy. I mean, that's how bad it's going. And we've got to stop it. You stopped it like a Ron DeSantis stopped it in Florida. You go on attack, you go on offense, you fight, and then you fight some more. And you give them no quarter. We need General Pattons out there. That's the kind of people we need as political leaders. Great question. Thank you.
Young lady.
I want to know how you thought that would benefit us right now in this time with the pandemic being around, people just have to get back on their feet and not having a lot of money at the time. And then on top of that, prices are going up as far as gas and everything. So how would abolishing abortion benefit us, if at all? Especially now with us being a Black audience, we know that Black people are usually underpaid. So I don't know how you thought that would benefit us.
That's a good question. And it's one I wish we had a lot more time to talk about, to be honest with you. And I'd be glad to come talk to the students more on that. Because, man, we have to honor life. It's a legitimate question. And for years in this country, we have lied to our generations to tell them that this is just a block of tissue in their bodies. But every single one of us were fetuses. I believe that we're better because you're here. I believe we're better because these men are here, to be honest with you, even though they may disagree with me on some things. I value life. And I believe that this country would be better off with 63 million wonderful, beautiful, white, black, and brown children that could be here and be a part of who we are. You see a society that learns to take care. In fact, I believe Nelson Mandela actually said, show me how society treats its children, and I'll show you how noble that society is, or how honorable. I'm paraphrasing that. And that's important. So we have not valued life. And I'm proud of the fact that in this nation, if somebody felt that they couldn't keep a child, man, do you know that we have safe haven baby laws in Arkansas? In fact, every state has them. That if they truly felt they couldn't keep their baby, they could turn the baby over to the state of Arkansas. In the first 30 days, no questions asked, no harm, no judgment. You turn the baby over and they'll find a home for the baby, they'll take care of the baby. It just happened in Conway, Arkansas. We had a safe haven baby box that was put in. They left a beautiful little boy just the other day in that box. What if he had been a boy? So it's a great question. I'd love to talk with you more about it. Again, I'd be happy to come back because it means something to me. Because I've talked to people, had a man on my show today. His mom was told to abort him all the way up until the last month of pregnancy because she was having a bad pregnancy. And she told him that he's here because his mom said, I believe life is worth something. Save his life. But that's a very good question.
Was that very just now? I just want to make sure. Well, this is an interesting piece. We have almost this death culture because we have, as Senator talked about, we moved this away from the value of life. I mean, when this country got started, it talked about, you guys know this, life that we pursue love. Well, without life being first, none of the other stuff matters. You can't know freedom, and you can't pursue whatever God has put into you to do because you're not here. When you talk about our Black communities, I'll tell you what I said on the U.S. Civil Rights Commission for this region. And they asked the question, what do you believe is the most pressing issue facing the Black community? I said, Planned Parenthood. Because we've got them on so many corners in our inner cities, and yet when you look at the 60, almost 65 million who's been aborted, a lion's share of that is Blacks. Black folks, and we're a very small part of the population, we're only 12% of the population, but yet we are the dominant when it comes to abortion. Why are we making it so easy for you to go in? And again, I think your question is good, but if you're not here, how can the other 66 million, 65 million that was aborted, somebody may have had the issue that this could have solved cancer? We don't know because they've been aborted. And I'm speaking, we talk about life, I come from one of those, I could be a product of incest, a product of rape, I don't know. I was found in the streets of Chicago in a box. Just found this out 11 years ago. I knew I was adopted, but that was it. But I grew up wondering, man, was she a prostitute? Was she molested by her in-law, somebody in the family? Why would I be adopted? Why was I given up for adoption? Then to find out that I was abandoned and left in a box. And the family guy found me. So I value life. I'm a product of that life. And it's an easy no, but it takes two. It's not just her. We talk about even the feminists who say it's all about women. Well, what about half those kids that could have been women and you aborted half of them? What about their rights? Don't they have the same? If you're saying that you're all about women and women's rights, so anyway, that's my response.
I just don't have a couple comments on that as well. My position on abortion is, or on life, is I'm against abortion in all cases, except for the exigent, immediate circumstance involving the mother's life. And that's an extremely rare occasion, that last one. But if it's from incest, from rape, or just pure economic reasons, you don't want it. No way. No way. And there has been a genocide of African Americans in this country ever since we allowed abortion to happen. Margaret Sanger, she was the one that founded Planned Parenthood. She was a virulent racist, it's well known. Well known. In fact, I think the New York City Planned Parenthood used to be named after her, and they changed it. They got rid of it because it was, I mean, and it was known well before then, but they just overlooked it because abortion was their God. And that's the other thing. I go back to what I said in 1962, the Everson decision from the Supreme Court. They got prayer out of the classroom and started the process of getting God out of the public square. Then we have 1973, when we have Roe versus Wade. I mean, it's a steady line. And I've touched on illegal aliens in this country. Listen, if I were in their shoes, I'd be trying to come here too. But think about something for a second. Since 73, we've aborted 65 million people. How many illegal aliens in this country? You know, they keep saying 12 million. No, it's much higher. But if you didn't abort all those babies since 1973, there would be no need, there would be no room. We would have no need for any illegal aliens to come into this country. So, yeah, one other, I just had to get this little snippet out. A couple of years ago, New York City, for the first time in its history, had more abortions than they did live births. That's disgusting. And the worst part of it is, those abortions, the vast majority of them are African Americans. How sad. God cries when he knows those kind of stats. Go ahead.
I think that that's a good thing because I know that the marriage rates of the Black community are the lowest and divorce rates are the highest. So if that's the case, then we're just creating a bunch of out-of-wedlock children. So I think it's a good thing.
And I'm just going to have to disagree. We'll have to agree to disagree.
All right, unfortunately, we don't have any more time for any other questions.
One question, please.
Okay.
One question, please. Most of you gentlemen from Northwest Arkansas, I really appreciate you coming.
Central Arkansas.
Central Arkansas, okay. Now, there's a big difference in Central Arkansas and Northwest Arkansas. You know, if you didn't know any better, you would think you're in another state. But what are you going to do for Southeast Arkansas? Should one of you gentlemen be elected lieutenant governor and happen to be governor? That's the first question. Second question is, how did our legislature, Arkansas legislature, allow millions of rent relief, utility bill relief from rural Arkansas go back to the federal government and to other states and not help the poor rural residents in Arkansas? How did that happen? And what would you do to prevent that should you become lieutenant governor and maybe governor?
Good questions, big questions. So I'm gonna try to answer it shortly. Number one, I'm from Northeast Arkansas. I'm from Randolph County, which is right where the foothills of the Ozarks meets the Delta in the Northeast Arkansas region. So that's where I'm from. Grew up in that small town early on. So my perspective is different than what you said about just Northwest Arkansas. I was talking with some of the gentlemen earlier, the chancellor was here. When I was first elected in 2010, I was the first Republican since the Civil War to win my district. One of the first concepts that I proposed, paraphrasing the title of the bill, was the Arkansas Economic Development and Recovery Act. You know what that proposed to do? It was to say on this fight about tax policy, I said, look, if we really believe in the tax policy that Republicans and conservatives propose, then I would submit this, that we choose any county in Arkansas that shows up on the Delta Regional Authority Distressed Counties list, or any county that's lost more than 10% of the population. And guess what? When they threw that map up, it was all through the Delta and Southeast Arkansas. Now I proposed that, put it before the legislature, and Democrats rejected it, sir. They wouldn't do it. Now I've been here long enough now. I told you, again, some of them were standing there. My good friend, I won't name his name on stage, he came to me, he's a Democrat, still serving here in Helena, Arkansas. He said, Jason, I wish we'd have passed your bill. So what happened, sir, is they let partisan politics because they didn't want the Republic to have the credit for proposing that. And that would have been an absolute boon for this part of the state. in Southeast because it took the distressed counties and said, if you really believe in these policies, do it right here and draw those jobs in. They wouldn't do it. I would love to see us begin to do it, but that needs to be part of that bigger tax policy. The second part of the question, is that okay? You asked 2 questions. Because I was there. You need to talk to Governor Asa Hutchinson and his executive departments, which were in charge of the program that you're talking about.
Republican, right?
Yes, sir. And guess what? I opposed him on many things. He should have helped us do the Texas civil cause of action and stop abortion. He also should have vetoed the bill that said you can't chemically castrate little boys in our state. I disagreed with him on a lot of things. But you should ask him, because absolutely that was a total mismanagement. They should have never allowed that to happen. They should have helped people make those applications and be able to qualify for that which was given to them to help them in that situation. Happy to talk more about it later.
2 questions. One, Northwest Arkansas. I am from Northwest Arkansas. I've been here 26, 27 years, and it hasn't always been like that. It has not always been that way, meaning the answer is not the government. And it never will be the government. It's a combination. I've been able to really work on collaborative work with the private sector as well as nonprofits as well as the government to kind of come up with the solutions and the things that we need in that area to come up with what we have. And that's exactly what needs to happen all across the state. I work with county judges. In fact, your Judge Robinson here, we got your county veterans clinic just opened up the what's her name? The health clinic, one of the long-serving legislators here. What say again? Wilkins, yeah. You just open that up. But again, it's coming together, working with private-public partnerships to do that work. And again, I got history and got proven records of doing that. It wasn't always like that. You go to Northwest Arkansas 27 years ago, very different today. And that's, again, doing this type of work that I'm doing now as a county judge for executive governor of a big county. On the second part, I chair 3,100 counties across the country, NACO, National Association of County. I've been elected now in my second term to work with all 3,100 of those counties. And one of the goals that I had was to say, stop giving all the money to the state. We got counties who are responsible and can govern, send that money directly to the county. That emergency rental money that you talked about went directly to some counties. And so they were able to orchestrate and send that money. For your smaller counties, that money went to the state. And then the state turned around and parceled it out. The state ended up calling me and saying, we're taking all this money back and sending it back to the federal government. And I said, well, we still need some of it in Northwest Arkansas. So they rerouted it. They sent it to the state. They sent me back about $3 million so I can manage that. I think that is right, though. Is how do we get that close to us as opposed to federal dealing with all of it? And that's, again, going back to smaller, smarter government.
On that question, that first question, I believe, just like I was talking about with the state income tax, you make those areas that are economically depressed in the Delta, you make those areas basically, you call them disaster areas. You know, like when there's a tornado, we have disaster areas, and you know, people can get no interest loans or easy loans from Small Business Administration or other kinds of government entities or those kinds of arrangements. That's what we need to be doing. I would say, I talked about abolishing the state income tax. Hey, let's start to implement that gradually across the state in counties, like over there in eastern Arkansas, in Phillips County. You know that big, beautiful nuclear reactor that provides wonderful, pretty cheap, clean electricity in Russellville? How about building one of those in Helena or down there by Lake Village? I mean, how many jobs would that bring on the construction and the permanent upkeep, the permanent maintenance operation? An oil refinery. I mean, you've got a great resource there with the Mississippi River, a great path that's used every day by all those tugboats and barges. But why are we not having, say, an oil refinery built there? And there's one in Memphis. When you go across the 55 bridge, you get on 55 going south, you see it right there. Why don't we have another oil refinery right there? I mean, there's all kinds of things we need to be doing. I'll say this, there's a lot of towns all over America that don't exist anymore. They're dead towns. And I'm sorry that innovation and modernity have kind of made it such that, hey, we don't have the population anymore in those areas. And then it's incumbent upon the people in those areas to move and go to where the jobs are. And that's what they've done. They've moved to Little Rock, they've moved to other places. But, you know, I don't believe if what was there to bring them there isn't in business anymore, we don't need to just keep creating and throwing money at something just because nostalgia or sentimental reasons. So, but those are the things I would try to do to help the area. I appreciate the question.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we do not have time to accept any more questions. We're gonna do closing remarks from our candidates, starting with Judge Wood.
Again, thank you, UAPB, for bringing me out today. Really, again, it's been good. Questions have been great. It's been great. Again, I'm running for Lieutenant Governor to serve you. Again, I got a vision for Arkansas that we lead with leadership and opportunity to be an exemplary state when it comes to this country. I got the example. We just have to talk about Northwest Arkansas. Northwest Arkansas has not always been that way. I want to bring what we've been doing and bring that to the rest of the state. And that's some collaboration. That's working with you as students who's getting ready to come out and embark on some of those artificial intelligence, automation, manufacturing, education. Again, I've been working here at Pine Bluff, in this Jefferson County with your leaders to bring about the change that you guys are wanting to see, that you guys are expecting when you get out of this school. We need you guys working with us. It's not, the answer's not in Little Rock. The answer's sitting right here with you guys. I told you where I come from in the streets of Chicago. Foster kid, adopted at 10 years old, and continue. I started a youth service group, the violence and the gangs in Chicago. I worked through all that. And I've worked hard, worked elections, school boards, did all that in Chicago, came to Arkansas, done Redhead, kept going. And now I'm leading one of the largest counties in the state of Arkansas, one of the fastest growing in the country. And I want to see that all for the rest of Arkansas. Appreciate you guys for having me and having me. And I'm looking forward to visiting with you. Appreciate you guys votes. You guys are turning 18. Love having you vote. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I've talked this whole time about being a Republican and doing Republican things, putting in place Republican policies and programs. I'm a Republican. I'm unapologetic about it. I believe in the winning Republican policies and principles that we stand on. And I believe those things will, if we implement them, finally, because we have, if we implement them, they will unleash liberty, safety, and prosperity like this state's never seen in its 185 years, 85-year history. I truly believe that. And I would say this, there are some books out there and some authors I would encourage you to read. Mark Levin. Anybody ever heard of Mark Levin? Thank you. Shelby Steele. Anybody ever heard of Shelby Steele? What about Thomas Sowell? Okay, I see some head nods. Walter Williams, Bob Woods, some great African-American conservatives. And I would have you, I'll buy them for you, but go pick up those books and read them from cover to cover. Those are great men and they're deep, great thinkers. They have a lot to offer. And they inform me. Milton Friedman, if you want economic policy, I mean, watch some of his videos on YouTube. But those are the Republican bedrock principles that those people talk about in their books and in their videos. And those are the things that I believe that increase the circle of liberty around every individual and give them the best chance at success. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. I'll say one other thing. I read something just earlier before I came here. Yale had a conservative speaker speak. That conservative speaker was shouted down. And so here we are on the college campus. Obviously, some are not Republicans, some are Democrats. That's right. We agree to disagree, but we're going to be civil about it. So I appreciate so much the opportunity to be here on this campus and talk about conservative Republican principles and to have this civil exchange of discourse. It's so American. It's so American. And thank you for that.
Thank you again for having all of us here, and I also agree with that statement. I thank you for the opportunity for people to have conversations with each other. This is what America's about. I would ask her to go for Arkansas Lieutenant Governor. As I stated, I will just tell you that 4 different times the people of Arkansas, the voters, have had an opportunity to vet me, to ask me questions, look into my background, and say, Jason, we want to keep you working for us in the state of Arkansas 4 different times. I faced the leftists. I faced people that disagree. I faced the people that were glad they're not here tonight, the people that shout. And I've been able to maintain my dignity in that, and I'm proud of that. I will tell you one thing that I do want to interject with my time. As I think about one of those fundamental times in history when our country was changed for the better, Martin Luther King Jr. was a preacher. He wasn't a politician. But he made a difference that has affected every single person that's sitting here. And that's because he said, I dream of a place where people will be judged not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. And I reject the fact that people that are trying to divide us all over again. I fundamentally respect what that man did. And I will stand for that as your lieutenant governor, because you know what? The only Southern governor that went out on the steps of the Arkansas Capitol to stand up and to state he was sorry for what happened to Martin Luther King was actually Winthrop Rockefeller, a Republican governor in this state. We have a history of doing what is right when it comes time. I've got the experience in the private sector. I've got the experience nationally. I was elected president of the National Council of Insurance Legislators, representing every square inch of dirt in this country. I also am president and founder of the National Association of Christian Lawmakers, which is made up, and it's diverse, white folks and black folks that believe in the Judeo-Christian foundation of our country. And I'd add one more person to that list of people. Go check out Bishop E.W. Jackson, a Marine, a lawyer, and servant that knows what it means to be an American. God bless you. Thank you very much.
All right, I want to thank everybody for coming out, and I want to give a special thanks to our candidates for participating for today. And now I'm going to give the mic back to Leon Johnson.
Ms. Rowe, thank you so much. You did an amazing job moderating, and so we all just get that. Thank you all for coming again. We really appreciate you all coming, speaking to us today, taking questions. I appreciate the civil discourse. It's healthy for democracy, and democracy begins with us. So just for the candidates, we'll give one round of applause. For the students, one student in particular that I really want to shout out, didn't want to come up with me, but Mr. Caleb Williams, thank you so much for today as well. Vice Chancellor Cotton, Dean Owens, thank you all so much. Thank you all so much to all the student leaders in the room. Thank you all for coming. And with that, we're gonna go ahead.
I'm gonna go vote.
Yes, we definitely are going to go vote. The primary is in May 24th, correct? Yeah, May 24th is a primary. Be sure to go vote. You all have had a lot of information on the candidates today directly. I encourage you to go do your research as well on the other races. There's not just a lieutenant governor race, but up and down the ballot, there are races. So I do encourage you to go do your research there. Find out where candidates are speaking. If you're able, go hear them as well. With that, thank you all for coming, and we're all, there is Chick-fil-A in the back. It's gonna be one of those nice first come, first serve bases. So, you know, you can get over there in a good amount of time before everyone else. Go ahead and grab you some Chick-fil-A. And with that, thank you all for coming. Have a good night.